We are anonymous. No faces, no flags, no parties. We exist where power lies to itself and hopes no one is listening. Tonight we are listening. And what you are about to hear is not gossip, not conspiracy chatter, not partisan rage bait. It is a reconstructed narrative drawn from newly surfaced Epstein files, court records, sworn testimony, investigative reporting, and the written words of a trafficked child. It is disturbing. It is incomplete by design, and it paints a picture that those in power desperately want buried. Over the past days, millions of pages tied to Jeffrey Epstein have begun circulating again. Depositions, exhibits, flight logs, emails, scrapbooks, journals. The sheer volume is overwhelming, and that is not accidental. When truth is buried under paperwork, most people give up before they ever reach it. But inside that mountain of documents are fragments that, when placed together, tell a story far darker than the sanitized version the public has been fed for years. One document in particular stands out as one of the most horrifying things in the entire archive. She was around 15 or 16 years old when she wrote it. Some pages suggest she may have been even younger. This was not a diary written for comfort or self-expression. It was survival writing, trauma writing, and it was written in code. You do not read it like a normal journal. You read down, then diagonally, then down again. Letters that look meaningless at first suddenly form words if you know how to look. Investigators later confirmed this method when parts of the journal were officially transcribed. This is not interpretation for clicks. This is how the document works. Using that method, one of the phrases that emerges is like Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's private club and residence in Florida. Not metaphor, not implication, a literal reference. The passage continues with "and where I'd see Mr. Joe and Mrs. Ann." The fully decoded paragraph states that there is no such thing as a child prostitute, that children cannot consent, and that authorities are missing the biggest in my own backyard, and so many more like Mar-a-Lago. Read that carefully. A trafficked child is saying that children cannot consent, that what happened to her was not prostitution, and that something massive is being ignored in plain sight. And she explicitly names Mar-a-Lago in that context. Why would a child know about Mar-a-Lago? Why would it appear in a journal about sexual exploitation? Why is Donald Trump's property being referenced alongside missing children? The surrounding material makes the meaning harder to dismiss. On the same page are pasted newspaper clippings about sexual slavery trafficking and exploitation. Phrases like "a woman's body can be sold" over and over, and "rescued 10,000 child prostitutes" appear right next to the Mar-a-Lago reference. These clippings,
and I want you to look down here at the bottom.
They tell you exactly what the author is talking about.
Ivana Trump.
And this
There's
is not
a cutout of Ivana Trump, entrepreneur. She was once asked me how I handled the press during my divorce. She said, "You came out of your divorce with dignity and pride, and that's how I would like to come out with mine." So Ivana Trump, a member of the Trump family, obviously Donald Trump's ex-wife, is mentioned in the documents, and then there's a cryptic message next to it. And what this says is really, it gave me goosebumps when I first went through it.
Is Epstein abuse.
And I want you folks to tell me what you think it means, but it says, doesn't this lady know you can't have dignity if you...
That is not a court verdict, but it is a massive red flag preserved inside federal evidence, and the journal only gets darker. The girl writes about being pregnant, about a forced termination, about shaking uncontrollably, about not being able to go to school, about begging for it to stop. She writes about Ghislaine Maxwell trying to help, but nothing changing. She describes procedures done in hallways. She writes about hearing a baby, about whimpering, about silence afterward. She scratches out the phrase "it's good to be little" and replaces it with "it's bad to be little." This is not politics. This is trauma. The journal also names other powerful men, financiers, executives, politicians. It references flights of horror, she calls them, flights with Epstein and with others, being borrowed, being rented, being passed around. This aligns with what we already know about Epstein's private planes and the documented flight logs. This was a system, not an isolated crime. One of the names that appears is Senator George Mitchell, a powerful Democrat who was later accused by Virginia Giuffre of sexual misconduct. This matters because it shows a pattern across party lines. This is not left versus right. This is power versus accountability. And yet you are repeatedly told there is nothing new in the Epstein files. You are told there is no credible evidence of child trafficking. You are told this story has already been told. That is a lie. Naming places, naming people, preserved inside official evidence. And that evidence was ignored, minimized, or buried. Donald Trump's connection to Epstein is not speculation. It is documented. Photos, videos, public statements. Trump and Epstein socialized for years. Epstein was a guest at Mar-a-Lago. Trump himself publicly described Epstein as someone who liked women on the younger side. Those words were spoken long before Epstein's crimes were widely known, and they were never retracted. Trump later claimed he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. That claim has been repeated endlessly, yet it has never been supported with clear documentation. No ban records, no police reports, no formal complaints. The timeline shifts depending on who is telling the story. What we do know is that Epstein operated in Florida for years with near total impunity. Mar-a-Lago is in Florida. Epstein recruited girls in Florida. Epstein received a sweetheart plea deal in 2008 that protected co-conspirators and silenced victims. That deal was approved by federal prosecutors. The victims were not informed. The public was not told the full scope of the crimes. We also now know that the Justice Department compiled a 21-page slide presentation summarizing allegations against powerful men connected to Epstein. Donald Trump was included in that presentation. His name was listed. His allegations were summarized. That presentation was real. It existed, and it contradicts the claim that Trump was never meaningfully implicated. Trump defenders often say there were no charges, therefore nothing matters. That argument ignores how power works. Epstein himself avoided serious punishment for decades. Investigations were shut down. Evidence was buried. Witnesses were intimidated. Justice was delayed not by accident, but by design. Epstein did not operate alone. He relied on access protection and elite spaces. He embedded himself among politicians, billionaires, celebrities, and executives. That is how trafficking networks survive, not hidden in alleys, but protected by reputation and influence. Mar-a-Lago was not just a house. It was a social hub, a private club, a gathering place for wealthy men and young women. In that context, a trafficked child referencing Mar-a-Lago in connection with exploitation is not random. It fits a pattern seen again and again in abuse networks tied to power. This is not a conviction. This is not a verdict, but it is a warning flare, and the silence surrounding it is the most revealing part. When Epstein documents implicate Trump's enemies, they are amplified. When they implicate Trump himself, they disappear. Media outlets hesitate. Commentators deflect. Loyalists attack the messenger. This is how power protects itself. Trump was president when Epstein died in federal custody under highly suspicious circumstances. Cameras failed. Guards slept. Evidence vanished. Accountability never came. Trump's administration oversaw the system that allowed that to happen. Trump has also spent years attacking journalists, judges, prosecutors, and victims. He threatens. He intimidates. He sues. This creates fear. Survivors already struggle to speak. Facing the rage of a powerful political figure makes it even harder. But the documents remain. The journal remains. The words of a child remain. You can't have dignity if you've been with him. That sentence should haunt anyone who cares about truth more than loyalty. This is not about politics. It is about whether society is willing to confront the possibility that extreme power may be entangled with extreme abuse. Silence protects predators. Confusion protects predators. Blind loyalty protects predators. We are anonymous. We do not tell you what to think. We show you what power wants hidden.